On Valentine's Day, my girlfriend and I were looking for a thrill in an abandoned construction site. At the peak of our passion, her soft moans suddenly turned into a terrified scream. On the rough concrete floor, next to our intertwined shadows, another unfamiliar shadow had appeared.
Hello, my friends. I'm Claire, and this is Claire Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story.
I scrambled to pick up the clothes on the ground and cover Sophia Vance's body. A cold wind blew through the open floor, and though my upper body was bare, my hair stood on end. A chill ran down my spine. Sophia huddled in my arms, not daring to peek out, and whimpered, "This is all your fault, insisting on coming here. How mortifying." Today was Valentine's Day, exactly 1 month since Sophia and I started dating. We had originally planned to find a deserted spot to set off fireworks, but the moment I saw her leaning delicately on my shoulder, I had a restless heart and a wandering mind. The moonlight tonight was beautiful. The dim light, the tangled breaths, we lost ourselves in the moment, unable to resist. I just never imagined that someone else would show up at this derelict building that had been abandoned for years. My back was to the newcomer. I didn't turn around. Judging by his shadow, it was a man, probably a homeless person from around the area. "Hey, buddy, sorry about this," I said, clearing my throat. "Do you mind leaving us alone?" The shadow on the ground remained motionless. The only response was the sound of the wind. What was going on? Was this guy trying to extort us? I frowned, lowering my voice as much as I could. "Friend, there's $500 cash in the brown jacket on the floor. Could you take it and give us some privacy?" My back was rigid. I still hadn't turned around. Sophia hid behind me, too scared to look. This was because Sophia's husband was Adrian Vance, a well-known entrepreneur in Chicago. She often appeared with him on television and newspapers. If she were recognized, it would be a huge problem. Despite my sincere plea, the shadow on the ground didn't move an inch. "Why are you being so polite to someone like that?" Sophia's tone was impatient. She turned her back to put on her clothes. "Get rid of him." I always did what Sophia told me to. I took a deep breath, preparing to turn around, but the shadow on the ground suddenly vanished. When I looked back, there was no one there. My heart trembled. How could someone disappear in just a few seconds without making a single sound? The interruption completely killed the mood. All I wanted was to get out of this godforsaken place. "Way to ruin the moment. This is all your fault, Caleb," Sophia said, poking my chest with a slender finger. "I had a hotel room booked, and you insisted on coming to this hellhole." I was just trying to find a little excitement. I grabbed her hand and raised an eyebrow. "Besides, you seemed to be enjoying it a moment ago, didn't you?" Sophia's eyes softened, and she pressed her soft body against mine. I knew what she meant. If you know, you know. "Should we head to the hotel now?" I asked tentatively. "Adrian is on a business trip. Tonight." Sophia's red lips brushed against my ear. "I'm all yours." Hearing Sophia's flirtatious words didn't stir excitement in me. Instead, it was a tense feeling of helplessness. They say a woman's appetite gets voracious in her 30s and 40s. Sophia was 35, right in that prime. For the investment money she controlled, I had no choice but to bite the bullet and satisfy her every time. Tonight was no exception. I put my arm around her shoulder and we headed downstairs. The building was only 4 stories high, and we were on the 3rd. In the silent nights, the only sound was the clack-clack of Sophia's high heels. "Careful, babe. Watch your step." The words had barely left my mouth when a dark figure flashed past us. Sophia and I flinched in terror. By the time we reacted, the shadow was gone. Was that the psycho from before, trying to scare us? Sophia's brow furrowed with anger. I pressed my lips together. Unease spread through me like a rising tide. Was this the same person? Was his appearance just a coincidence? "Whoever it is, let's just get out of here. By the way, Victor is still waiting downstairs, right?" Victor was Sophia's bodyguard and her most trusted confidant. She even brought him along when she was cheating with me. Sophia nodded. "He's right downstairs." Hearing that, I breathed a sigh of relief. Victor was highly skilled. 10 vagrants would be no match for him. I took Sophia's hand and we carefully made our way down. Unfinished buildings like this were the most dangerous. One wrong step and you could fall several meters. But as we reached the second floor, both of us froze. An icy chill shot up from the soles of my feet, and my limbs began to numb. Hanging from a load-bearing wall on the second floor was a man in a suit. Sophia shrieked and hid behind me, her voice trembling. Is that a person or a ghost? Just then, a gust of wind blew through, and the rope holding the man began to swing with a creak. As it swayed, the man who had his back to us slowly turned to face us. I switched on my phone's flashlight. When the beam hit him, my scalp tingled and my entire body shook with uncontrollable fear. It was Victor! Victor's eyes were rolled back in his head. He was clearly dead. The moment Sophia saw the corpse's face, she collapsed to the floor in terror. How could it be Victor? My hands trembled as I fumbled for my phone. Police! We have to call the police! But just as my finger was about to press the dial button, Sophia leaped up from the ground and snatched the phone from my hand. We can't call the police, Sophia bit her nails nervously. If we do, Adrian will find out about us. He'll make sure I leave with nothing. I'll lose everything. She was right. If Adrian found out, the investment she had promised me would be gone. I was drowning in debt for this project. If that investment didn't come through, I'd probably be hunted down by loan sharks. Then what do we do with Victor's body? I didn't dare look toward the load-bearing wall. Even if we don't call the police, someone will find him eventually. After a moment of silence, Sophia spoke. Caleb, go take Victor's body down. Take it down? For what? I looked at her, confused. Find a place and bury him, Sophia said, her composure returning. She was back to her usual, decisive, ruthless self. Victor has no children and no family. No one will notice if he goes missing. But my feet wouldn't move. I was just cheating with a married woman, which was morally corrupt. But if I did what Sophia said, this would become something entirely different. Don't worry, the investment I promised you will be in your account tomorrow. Seeing my hesitation, Sophia upped the ante. On top of the investment, I'll give you another $50,000. Money makes the world go round. Hesitating even for a second would be disrespectful to 50 grand. I quickly untied Victor's body from the noose and hoisted it onto my back. The body was still warm, meaning he had died recently. As my senses returned, it dawned on me. That dark figure from before was probably the killer, and he was very likely still here. This abandoned construction site was in Chicago's western suburbs. Though remote, it was usually faintly visible under the streetlights. But now, the visibility around us was zero, as if a layer of black ink had been poured over everything. Even my phone's flashlight couldn't penetrate the darkness. Sophia pressed against my arm and asked suddenly, Caleb, do you know why this building was abandoned? I was taken aback. Wasn't it because the developer went bankrupt and fled? Sophia shook her head. Adrian is friends with the developer. I once heard him mention that the project was halted because someone died on site. A 5-story building that was already built inexplicably had one of its floors collapse, crushing 5 or 6 workers. Adrian's friend hired a psychic who said the land was formerly a cemetery. It had heavy yin energy, and resentful ghosts were harming people. I never believed in superstition, but right now, Victor's corpse was on my back. His face was pressed against my neck, and it felt like he blew a cold breath on me, the chill seeping into my pores. I had a bad feeling. If you knew people died here, why did you bring me? Sophia rolled her eyes. I'm an educated woman. Why would I believe in that futile nonsense? The moment she finished speaking, a strong wind kicked up from the ground, blowing sand and dirt from the construction site into our faces, as if in response to her words. My heart pounded. Believe it or not, let's just get out of here. I hitched Victor's slipping body higher on my back and kept moving. Suddenly, I stepped on something, my foot slipped, and my body fell backward uncontrollably. Luckily, Victor cushioned my fall. Otherwise, I would have scraped off a layer of skin. Caleb, are you okay? I scrambled up from the ground. There was no response. A terrible premonition rose in my heart. Before I could turn around, a scream pierced the air. It was Sophia's voice. I could feel a spine-chilling gaze fixed on my back. Was the killer attacking us? I instinctively bolted, running without a moment's pause. By the time I reached the first floor, I was forced to stop. Sophia's car was parked right at the entrance, but the keys were on Victor's body. If I wanted to leave, I had to go back to the second floor to get them. To go back or stay put became the question. As I hesitated, an icy hand suddenly landed on my shoulder. In the corner of my eye, I caught a flash of light, the refracted light of a diamond. It was the rock, Sophia's favorite diamond ring. But I hadn't heard any footsteps. In a dark environment, a person becomes extra sensitive to sound. When Sophia approached, was there a sound? My neck was stiff. I didn't dare turn my head. Cold sweat dripped down my back. The air seemed to stand still. Even breathing felt painful. After a long moment, Sophia's laughter echoed in my ear. "Caleb, you're such a coward," she said, her tone teasing. "I made up a little story and scared you this badly?" I frowned, half convinced but still suspicious. "What happened just now?" I asked, tentatively. "You screamed so loud, you scared the hell out of me." "You have the nerve to ask?" Sophia complained irritably. "I twisted my ankle and couldn't help but scream a little loud. I didn't expect you to run faster than a rabbit." "If a real killer had attacked, I would have been your sacrificial lamb." Her voice was laced with anger. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly tried to placate her with a sheepish smile. "Babe, let me explain." "Enough with the fake sentimentality," Sophia snorted. "Don't worry, I won't short you a single penny of the money I promised." I instantly relaxed. "What are you standing there for? Go get Victor's body." Sophia kicked the back of my knee. I winced and half knelt, my phone slipping from my hand to the ground in the instant the screen lit up the floor. A jolt went through me, and I almost screamed. Behind Sophia, a pair of feet in sneakers was visible. I subtly backed away a few steps, then with lightning speed, I turned and ran. Without a shred of hesitation, I abandoned Sophia again. I never had real feelings for her. She provided the money and I provided physical and emotional value. That was all. Did she expect me to risk my life to save her? Impossible. I ran for my life. The surroundings were pitch black. I could hear my own heart pounding wildly. As I ran, I dialed 911. Beep, beep. Beep, beep. The call finally connected. I spoke frantically. "Hello, I need to report a crime. There's been a murder at the abandoned construction site in the west suburbs." Before I could finish, a familiar voice came through the receiver. "Caleb, didn't I tell you not to call the police?" In disbelief, I glanced at my phone screen. The number clearly displayed was 911. But why was the person who answered the phone Sophia? Why? My throat was too dry to make a sound. How was this possible? Sophia let out a strange, cackling laugh. "You can't escape, Caleb. No matter where you run, we will find you." Her laughter poured through the phone into my ear, hammering against my eardrums, destroying my fragile nerves. I collapsed to the ground in terror. But then I remembered what she had said. "No matter where you run, we will find you." She used "we." An absurd and terrifying guess rose from the bottom of my heart. Sophia was very likely working with the killer, but I couldn't understand why she would want to kill me and Victor. The abandoned building was in the suburbs, with no one around, and Sophia had somehow managed to prevent me from calling the police. I fell into despair. My mind was filled with only one thought: survive. No matter what, I had to survive. But there were only low shrubs around here, not suitable for hiding. It might be better to go back to the building. The most dangerous place is the safest place. Sophia and the killer were searching for me everywhere. They would never expect me to return to where I started. I didn't dare use my phone for light, only creeping forward in the moonlight, hugging the wall. I moved step by step to a window. The moonlight only illuminated a small patch of the windowsill. Inside was pitch black, and I couldn't see anything. I wasn't sure if Sophia and the others were still in the building. After a moment's thought, I took out my phone and dialed Sophia's number. The building was silent. After confirming there was no ringing inside, I quickly hung up. I propped my hands on the window frame and vaulted inside. As it happened, this room was filled with miscellaneous items, probably left by the construction crew. I climbed into a large trash bin. The contents had long since rotted, emitting a suffocating stench. But I had no other choice. To survive tonight, I had to hide like a mouse being hunted by a cat. I curled up in the trash bin, every muscle in my body tensed, not daring to move. Just as I was about to pass out from the stench, the sound of high heels approached. It was them. Clack, clack. Clack, clack. It felt like the heels were stepping on my heart, creating an inexplicable sense of terror. I clamped my hand over my mouth, afraid to make a sound. "Have you checked everywhere?" Sophia's voice rang out. "I have. No sign of him." The reply came from a man with a raspy voice, his age impossible to guess. "This is all your fault. Why didn't you hide properly earlier? You showed your hand and Caleb found out. Otherwise, we would have succeeded by now." Hearing this, my heart sunk. Sophia and the killer were indeed working together. "I got carried away. We've waited so many years for this chance," the killer said, his voice laced with malice. "We must kill him tonight." My heart leapt. Why? Why did they have to kill me? And why did the killer say they had waited many years for this chance? A thought suddenly struck me. Perhaps my meeting with Sophia was a conspiracy from the very beginning, designed to get close to me and then kill me. As for the motive, I still couldn't figure it out. Just then, Sophia spoke again. "Do you think it's possible Caleb is still hiding in this building?" She paced back and forth in her high heels. I could feel the sound of the heels getting closer. The hairs on my body stood on end. I could only clamp my hands over my mouth and nose, not even daring to breathe. "Let's check the 4th floor first," the killer suddenly said to Sophia. I couldn't see what was happening outside. I only heard the sound of the high heels fading into the distance, and then silence. It seemed they had really gone to the 4th floor. My heart still pounding, I climbed out of the trash bin. I realized my clothes were soaked through with cold sweat. Since Sophia had guessed I was hiding in the building, it was only a matter of time before they found me if I stayed. At this life or death moment, a strange calmness came over me. I couldn't just wait to be killed. The only way out was Victor's body. I took off my shoes and crept toward the 2nd floor, staying low against the wall. The car keys were on Victor. If I could get them, I might have a chance to escape. I crawled on the ground, feeling my way forward. My nerves were stretched to their limit. In the darkness, I could even hear my own frantic heartbeat. Soon, my hand touched Victor's body. Cold. Soft. It didn't take long to find the car keys in his suit pocket. The moment I had them, a question flashed through my mind. Why did Sophia and the killer have to murder Victor? Victor was Sophia's most loyal dog. He would do whatever she asked without question. What reason could she have to kill him? My mind was a mess. I didn't have the energy to pursue that question. My only thought now was to get out of here. I took the keys and went back the way I came. As I was halfway down the stairs, Sophia's shrill scream echoed from above. My hair stood on end. Sophia's voice was like a sharp hook, making my scalp crawl. What was happening? Confused and terrified, I scrambled forward on all fours. Once I was in the car with the doors locked, I finally let out a breath of relief. My back was drenched in cold sweat, sticking to the seat. With trembling fingers, I started the car. The moment the engine roared to life, bam! A loud crash echoed through the night. I looked up in horror. The roof of the car was caved in. Drip, drip. Blood dripped down the window onto the ground. While I was still in shock, Sophia's body slowly slid down onto the windshield. Her face was right in front of mine. Her eyes were bloodshot, staring straight at me, her face twisted in a terrifying grimace. Sophia was dead. Cold sweat trickled down my neck. My body was paralyzed with fear. A sense of doom washed over me. Crack. The driver's side window shattered. I whipped my head around and saw a gaunt man holding a hammer. I couldn't see his face in the darkness, but I could feel him smiling. A smile of absolute certainty. "Found you, Caleb." He had calmly announced my death sentence. But I wasn't ready to give up. I clutched the small utility knife in my pocket, which I had found on the first floor earlier. Sophia was dead. Even if the killer had found me, in a one-on-one fight, I might not lose. I had no other choice. "Who are you?" I asked, my hand subtly moving toward the door handle. My plan was to distract him, then, when he least expected it, shove the door open and stab him. The killer chuckled and took off his baseball cap. His face was fully exposed. I froze. I never expected it to be him. Adrian Vance, Sophia's husband. Could it be that he found out he was cheated on and in a fit of rage decided to kill both me and Sophia? But thinking back to his conversation with Sophia, it seemed things weren't that simple. "Since you're about to die, there's no harm in letting you know." I stared at Adrian's neck. To kill a person, the fastest way is to strike the artery. "Is that so?" I mimicked his smile. "Who lives and who dies isn't certain yet." The moment the words left my mouth, I threw the door open and, with a speed that surprised even myself, lunged at Adrian with the knife. But he was fast too. He ducked his head and the knife stabbed into his shoulder. He staggered back in pain and the smell of blood filled the air. But it wasn't a fatal wound. Just as I was about to strike again, I realized the blade had broken off. All I had left was the handle. Adrian quickly switched the hammer to his left hand, completely ignoring the knife in his right shoulder, and lunged at me like an enraged lion. I turned and ran back into the building as fast as I could. A weapon. I needed a weapon. Adrian followed me with a leisurely pace, his voice dripping with arrogance. "Don't bother with the pointless struggle, Caleb. You're definitely going to die tonight." Adrian's footsteps drew closer. I pressed myself against the wall, raised a brick high, and as soon as he appeared, I smashed it down toward his head with all my might. But it was as if Adrian had read my mind. He remained calm, precisely grabbing my wrist. With a twist, the brick fell to the ground with a dull thud. Adrian's lips curled into a smirk. "The more you resist, the more excited I get. A fish on the chopping block can flop all at once, but it can't escape death." He crouched behind me and wrapped the hemp rope used to hang Victor around my neck. I gripped the rope tightly, making a final struggle. Why are you killing me? Your wife and I just had a transactional relationship. Adrian's chest shook with laughter. "You think I care about your relationship? Sophia was just a tool to get to you. Without her, would you have come to this abandoned building?" His words made my head spin. So this really was a conspiracy targeting me. But why? Why? I didn't even know you before I met Sophia. Why do you want to kill me? I roared, a fierce storm of anger and unwillingness raging inside me. "Why kill you?" Adrian sneered. He leaned in and whispered in my ear, "Because only when you die can I live." As he finished speaking, his hands slowly tightened around my neck. I thrashed my arms and legs. The air grew thinner and thinner. A flash of white light, and I lost consciousness completely. When I woke up again, I was in a hospital bed. I looked at my bruised and scratched hands, and tears welled up in my eyes. "You're awake." A doctor in a white coat walked over to me and gave me a quick physical examination. I licked my lips. "Doctor, did they catch the killer?" "The famous entrepreneur Adrian Vance? He killed his wife, Sophia Vance, and their driver, Victor." The doctor stared at me for a long moment, then sighed. "Your condition had improved with medication. How did it get worse again? You can't sneak out like this anymore." I was stunned. "Doctor, what do you mean?" "Adrian Vance, Sophia Vance, and Victor. None of those people exist." Dr. Miles looked at the medical file in his hand, a dull ache throbbing in his temples. The patient, Caleb Shaw, had been admitted for 5 years, but his condition had never truly improved. When Caleb was 20, his family suffered a catastrophic event. His father, due to a failed investment, incurred massive debt and became a debt defaulter. Caleb, who had always been a golden boy, fell from grace. The friends who had once flocked to him because of his family status now treated him with scorn. Even his first love, his girlfriend of 3 years, broke up with him. Later, unable to bear the pressure, Caleb's father and mother both committed suicide, leaving Caleb to face the enormous debt alone. For Caleb, wasn't this also a kind of betrayal? During that time, Caleb's mental health began to deteriorate, but he didn't seek help. By the time he realized something was wrong, he had already been diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. The entrepreneur Adrian Vance, the beautiful socialite Sophia Vance, and the strong driver Victor were all Caleb's other personalities. For the past year, with medication, Caleb's mental state had basically stabilized. But 3 days ago, he had unexplainably run away from the psychiatric hospital. When the hospital staff found him, he was lying unconscious in an abandoned construction site in the western suburbs. When he woke up, those names that hadn't been spoken for so long were on his lips again. Dr. Miles let out a long sigh. The priority now was to figure out what had happened 3 days ago. I lay in my hospital bed, peeling an apple with a fruit knife. Round and round, the pale pink peel twisted into a perfect spiral. Caleb. Dr. Miles pushed the door open, holding a notepad and pen, his tone gentle. Can you tell me what happened at the abandoned building? I put the apple down and, without hiding anything, told Dr. Miles everything about that terrifying night. Dr. Miles' pen scribbled and paused on the paper. Finally, he looked up with a hint of disbelief. You're saying Adrian Vance killed Sophia Vance and Victor? And he even tried to kill you? I shrugged, my expression nonchalant. But his luck was a bit off. He was about to succeed, but when a person is on the brink of death, their body can unleash incredible potential. As I was struggling, my hand felt the brick that had fallen on the ground. Adrian was so absorbed in the joy of killing me, he didn't notice. I grabbed the brick, raised my hand, and smashed it backward with all my might, right into his forehead. And Adrian just died like that? Dr. Miles asked. I nodded. His head was split open. I passed out from exhaustion. Hearing this, Dr. Miles frowned, staring at his notes, his expression a mixture of relief and concern. I gave Dr. Miles a reassuring smile. I've been taking the medicine you prescribed for the past 2 days. I feel much better, and I've remembered a lot about the past. My tone was slow and calm. I know. Adrian, Sophia, and Victor were all figments of my imagination. Adrian had outstanding business talent. I imagined him after my dad went bankrupt. I hoped he could change my family's fate. Sophia was created after my first love broke up with me. I hoped she could heal the pain my girlfriend caused. Victor was imagined after I was bullied at school by my old friends. I hoped I could fight back when I was being bullied. But they won't be appearing anymore, I said, unable to hide the joy in my voice, because they're all dead. Dr. Miles raised his eyebrows in surprise, but after hearing me finish, he couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. It's excellent that you have this awareness. I believe with a bit more treatment, you'll be able to make a full recovery. After Dr. Miles laughed, I picked up the apple on the table again. Our conversation had been too long. The apple's surface had already oxidized and turned yellow. I took the knife and stabbed it into the core of the apple again and again. Scrape, scrape. The sound of the blade severing the fibers was intoxicating, though it couldn't compare to the sound of cutting through flesh and blood. I lied earlier. I changed the ending of the story. The real story is that Caleb didn't kill Adrian. He was strangled to death by Adrian, like a dead fish. I took a bite of the apple. The juice burst forth. I licked the liquid from the corner of my mouth with the tip of my tongue. Given that Caleb, Sophia, and Victor are all dead, who is the one that's left? The answer is self-evident. Shh. This is our secret.